All right, here's what we're going to do. First, before you watch this segment, go back and watch the first segment on using a beauty dish, because that really explains what the whole beauty dish part is. Then we're going to take it up a notch. We're going to add a second light and maybe even a third light, but to really make this work, you're going to need 2 friends. So 2 lights minimum, 3 lights maybe, 2 friends for sure, because we're going to recreate one of the shots from my own portfolio, which requires you to not only have some lights, but have a piece of plexiglass. Let me show you. I've got a piece of plexiglass over here. You're going to need to go to your local hardware store and get a piece of plexiglass. Now, the nice thing about it, when you buy your plexiglass, it will not be as dirty and filthy as this plexiglass, which we've shipped all over the country a dozen times. So, and our shipping department was kind enough to actually put tape directly on here. I don't recommend putting like duct tape directly on this. Anyway, it's very, very inexpensive. They're just like 15, 20 bucks for a sheet of this stuff. You can get it in all different sizes. This is one kind of a nice travel size plexiglass. So what you're going to have your friends do is we're going to use Stevie to come in and do a kind of a beauty headshot, and she's actually going to be leaning on this plexiglass. That's why you need the 2 friends. They have to hold the plexiglass. So before I do that, let me just hand this off for a second. I'm going to talk about the lighting setup. So we have the beauty dish like before. I'm not even going to talk about that because we went through that in detail before. Here we're adding a second strobe. So it's just another strobe with a very small softbox. And you might have heard this referred to as maybe a clamshell or an over and under type of lighting. And so what we have back here is your subject's going to be standing here and you're shooting right through this little slot, kind of like a clamshell. You're shooting right through the middle of here. So now again, luckily, these are just strobes, so there's not a lot of light. It's not like hot lights and your subject's going to be all baking like a potato under here. All you're seeing is the modeling lights. You're going to kind of want to balance these as far as you want the power of this one to be kind of the same as this one. But once your subject gets here, you might have to make this one brighter or this one brighter. Just turn the power up of either one. Now, at this point, we're going to leave the background gray. Here's where the third light might come in. The third light might come in where if you decide you want the background to go completely white. Now, we're going to go ahead and bring our subject in, so let's start there. Stevie's going to come in. So here's what we're going to do. Now we're going to bring in the plexiglass guys. So plexi guys. All right, so this is Brad and Dwayne. Hi, guys. All right. So what they're going to do is they're going to hold the plexiglass. She's going to lean on it. She doesn't want to lean all her weight on it. You kind of want to lean a little bit of weight on it. And then we're going to get in real tight. So we're just shooting kind of a head and shoulders thing. And see that both the flashes are firing. They are. And all right, at this point, it looks pretty good. The only thing that I might change is I'm thinking maybe the bottom box is a little tiny bit bright. So I'm going to switch this back to group. Oh, when you want all the strobes to fire, you set it to all. In this case, we're going to set it to, let's go to group 2 is the bottom one. Set it to group here, and we're going to knock that down. Those 2 stops that I added, those 2/10 of 1 stops, were just a little bit too much. Switch back to all, and now we can just work with the subject and get that. And I'm trying to compose this to where you see a little bit of the reflection. It's so perfectly fine to chop off a little bit of her head, which I'm doing, but I really want to make sure that you see some of the reflection in her hands. The other thing you have to be careful about while you're doing this is that you don't see Dwayne or Brad's hands in the shot. If you go a little bit wide, all of a sudden you see them. Also, I'm going to have you just look just a little bit up, just a hair, just make sure we get a little more. There you go. Perfect. That way we can get a little extra light in there. All right. Okay, now, at this point, the background's gray. Let's take it up a notch and let's really get that nice pure white background by adding one more light. So we're just going to take one more strobe. We're going to put it on a stand back behind her. Now, it's actually kind of sticky for a lot of people, and myself included, to get a really pure white background a lot of times, because what happens is if you have a long white background, one side will be brighter than the other if you just use one light. And that's why so many photographers will use 2 lights, one on each end. So they would actually set up one light over here, aiming up this way, another light over there. Or what they'll do very often is to take a light, put a big white card here, and they'll bounce the light here into like a giant 6-foot white board, and that bounces back on the background. So it just gives a more even distribution of the light. In this case, I think we might be able, because this is such a short background, this little seamless paper that we're using back here is so short. I think it's only, what is this, 5 foot wide, Brad? It's like, not even, yeah, it's like 46 inches or some crazy thing. So it's easier with a smaller background to light. I think we're going to be able to get away with one. But this is going to turn our background then from that dark gray to the white, and I think that's going to look a little better with this. All right, men of plexiglass, as they are known. All right, here we go. The plexiglass guys are in place. And let's see. You know what's funny is I can already see the background looks whiter just because of the modeling light that's in the strobe that's behind her. And that's on group 3. And let's see how we're doing. Wow, pure bright white. Now I can tell you already, I can see on here that the background is clipping. It's already, the clipping warning's on my camera. I'm already seeing it flashing. But I don't care because I know that if the background goes solid white, that's fine. I don't want to see any detail in the background. The background can blow out completely, but I'm very careful to make sure we're not blowing out anything in her face. So let's just take a few more here. This is much, much better on the white background than it was on the gray. It looks, I mean, this really just took it to a whole nother level. Let me just take a couple more test shots. Very nice. Tip the head up just a tiny bit. There we go. That little bit that she just changed makes a big difference in how the light fills in her eyes. So that's how we do the look. There's some modifications that we can do, as you'll see, but this is taking it just a little bit step further, but I don't want you to think this was hard. This was actually very, very easy. All we're using is 2 lights, and they're just both, so think of this as, earlier when you watched that one, this was the reflector. Now it's not a reflector. Now we have some control over it. That doesn't make it harder. That makes it better. All right, guys, that's the deal on setting up this kind of a beauty look.